Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I just realized back on day one, once we got back from seeing the sunset at the pyramids, our tour guide with our horse buggy, he took us to a papyrus shop because, let's be honest here, he had some type of business connection with the people there, so if we bought any papyrus items, he probably got a kickback. So what they did was they gave us this full educational display on what papyrus is, how it's made both historically as well as modern times, and then they took us throughout their entire shop and showed us both glow-in-the-dark papyrus and all sorts of really, really cool stuff. But I forgot to put that in the previous video, so I figured I'd throw it in there right now. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and start talking about what happened on day two of this trip. Let's start it. Where the suns from the east meet the suns from the west, and the grass from the caravan grow. And again, we are going to stop singing that so we don't get a copyright flag. Hey guys, this is Charles King, and I am for the sake of this video, a travel vlogger. It's not something I do often, but I'm going to try to get into it more often. So let me know. By the way, before we even get any further, what did you think about the previous video about day one, my journey to Cairo and Giza, Egypt? What did you think of it? Please let me know. I'm curious to see how you like this new format. So today's video is going to be about day two and what we did while we were in Giza, as well as when we went down south to Sakkara and the Necropolis and the pyramids that were down there. So I'm going to go ahead and apologize now if you hear me say we were in Cairo this entire time. The Great Pyramids and where we stayed and our lodging was in Giza, which is a little bit away from Cairo. So let's go ahead and get back into it. All right, so starting off day two, we had breakfast at the hotel. We were staying at the Great Pyramid Inn, and breakfast was included. It was a good breakfast. Obviously, we got the Great Pyramids behind me. I'm actually at my hotel doing a time lapse while having breakfast. It's pretty awesome. From there, we had arranged for a guide as well as a driver through the hotel. And I'm sure they probably have some system put together where they have a kickback for the guides, or maybe it's a service. But anyway, it worked out really, really well. So the concierge was very helpful. And what I mean by helpful was, as I mentioned in the previous video, many people in that area were the taxi drivers and the people who were dealing as vendors to the tourists. They were really, really pushy about their services or basically demanding X number of tip. The concierge, he was, again, helpful. He got us hooked up with a guide as well as a driver. And the car that they had was, I would say, something similar to like a Toyota Camry, Honda Accord, Civic. It wasn't a Toyota Camry, Honda Accord, Civic. It was whatever vehicle manufacturer they had there, but it was comfortable. And so this made it really, really great to go down to Sakkara, which is 43 minutes away from Giza. So it made it really, really easy for us to go all the way down there, see the stuff that we wanted to see, then come back up, because at the end of the day, we planned on seeing the Great Pyramids and get to see the sunset at the Great Pyramids. So in case anybody's wondering, yes, we did see the Great Pyramids and the sunset there on day one. But that was more so just because they were across the street, so we just jumped in a car and had no plan, just went in there and checked it out. Today, day two, is when we plan on seeing the Necropolis and Sakkara, and then come back to see the Great Pyramids. So both from my research as well as what the tour guide and the concierge said, we wanted to see Sakkara because those pyramids are much, much more decorated on the inside. Like while we were walking around all the pyramids there, it was fascinating because there was, I forget what they called this type of pyramid. I think it might have been step pyramid or something like that, but it was just really cool how they made it. The exterior of the pyramid was not as big as the Great Pyramids by far. It was nowhere near as big as the Great Pyramids, but what it had that the Great Pyramids did not have is the inside decorations. And what I mean is all the hieroglyphics on the walls, all of the intricate pathways inside. Like they really, really decorated this pyramid leaps and bounds compared to the inside of the Great Pyramid. It's interesting because our tour guide gave us all the information we needed about the pyramids and stuff in Sakkara, but he was not allowed to go with us inside the pyramid or give us information. I guess that might be because there's not a lot of talking, because if there's a bunch of tour guides in there at one time, it would be loud. So once we got into the pyramids, it was really just us. We started our day off early. It was really just us in the pyramid. And so there were some guys who I guess worked there or they just go there, I don't know. But he took us in there, he unlocked the door and showed us kind of where the tomb was. I don't know whether it's called sarcophagus or not. I know that might be butchering what it's called. Hopefully I'm right. Otherwise, go ahead and eat me up in the comments. He went ahead and took us in. He showed us everything. And of course, he stuck his hand out asking for a tip. But, you know, he gave us a tour guide. He obviously wasn't getting paid directly being there. So, okay, cool. We gave him a tip. Check this out. Behind me is the step pyramid. This thing is 2700 BC. This thing is amazing looking. This thing's like seriously, this is huge. Okay, so that was awesome. So now we're gonna make our way back to Giza. We're gonna see some more pyramids, bigger ones, but they're not gonna be as decorated as this. This is just cool. On our way back towards Cairo, we stopped at, where did we stop? Did we stop? Yes, we did. We stopped at a restaurant that I do not even remember the name of it, but the food was fantastic. I think it was like a local gym, like something that might be famous. I don't even remember how to describe the food because the textures were so different from what I have ever experienced before, but it was so yummy. It was really, really good. So while we were having lunch, our tour guide and the driver, they actually sat at a different table, which gave us privacy, which I think was very professional. It wasn't even a question. It's more like, okay, y'all good? We'll be right over there. When you're ready, we'll leave. I really think that this is something that people should do in this country more often, whether it's Washington, D.C., New York, wherever, is have tour guides and driver combos set up for people traveling either individually or with small, like 1 to 2 people in a group thing. Because later on in this video series that I'm putting out here, you'll see where we took a bus tour, and I really wasn't a big fan of being in this large tour group. Being with just Rose and then the driver and the tour guides, it worked out really, really well, and I liked touring the area like this. So after we finished our lunch, we got back in our car and we made our way towards Cairo and the Great Pyramids. And wow, it's amazing how you can see these gigantic pyramids just creeping in from the distance. Like, you can see them, it's crazy. And as you might imagine, they are tourist central. There were so many tourists like all over the place, it was wild. But since they're spread out and they're just so massive, you can't really feel exactly how concentrated the tourists are. But if you look at it big picture, there were a lot of tourists. Like, there were a lot of tourists. And so we just kind of went around the main pyramids, checked it out, stood in front of many of them. We took photos of each other. I snapped a bunch of photos of Rose. She actually took a whole bunch of photos for me. She was taking photos of me in Sakkara and at the Great Pyramids, and throughout this entire trip, like, one of the things I actually really enjoyed about this trip was it wasn't me having to ask her or ask a stranger to take a photo. Like, obviously I'm having a blast, you know, snapping photos mainly on my iPhone. There's more iPhone photos from this trip than my big camera setup, but she'd be like, oh man, let me get a photo of you, let me snap a photo of you. Like, she would take my camera, even though she wasn't familiar with the camera. She was just super willing, excited to, you know, make sure I was getting photos as well as her. And that was so different because in most cases when I traveled, it's always felt like it was me taking the photos of somebody else, and okay, I might set up a selfie or something like that, but having somebody who was like, we were bouncing back and forth, it just made the entire experience just that much richer. So we did not go inside of each of the Great Pyramids. What we looked up online, as well as what the tour guide told us, is that they are roughly the same for all 3 of them, and with all the tourists and the timeline we were working on our day, because we also had Nile River cruise at the end of the day, we just decided to go in one of them. Because once you start going into the Great Pyramids, like going inside of any of them, all it is you go up kind of in the middle on the outside, and then basically it's a long chamber that goes slanted down deep into the pyramid. So going into the Great Pyramids was one of the spots in Egypt where they wanted to either charge extra if I had a tripod or used it or whatever. So obviously all the footage I'm showing you right now is shot on my cell phone, because again, it was just a super long pathway going down deep inside. Really narrow, by the way. Hopefully you're not claustrophobic. Even passing people, it got really tight going in there. And after we finished going inside of one of the Great Pyramids, they took us around to this really far away kind of cityscape, landscape shot where we could see the Great Pyramids from a distance, and that's where we had some fun, did some landscape photos. We actually took a really cool selfie with our Tony Robbins hats. So this was a very special Tony Robbins hat that they were giving out during the event that we were both at, where we initially met. And so it's just cool because she had her hat, I had mine. So we took some selfies in front of the pyramids, and then we did the Tony Robbins chant. All right, so look where we are. Make your move, yes! Make your move, yes! Make your move, yes! Because that was just one of the ongoing incantations or affirmation chants that we did throughout the whole Unleash the Power Within. So it was just really fun to do that. And we shared it on the Facebook group, and everybody got a kick out of it, seeing us there with the hats and doing that chant. So after we finished, checking out the pyramids from a distance, we came around and got a shot of in front of the Sphinx and walked around the Sphinx. Honestly, around there is where I was starting to get just a little bit tired. I think that's where, being awake as long as I had been, as well as just being out in the sun all day long, the desert sun, I was just a little tired, but we still rallied through. Seeing the Sphinx was fantastic. I couldn't find the angle though that I really wanted for a photo composition, but again, this is the true, absolute truth. I wasn't super even impressed or worried about getting the shot. I was happy with my Sphinx shot that I got on my iPhone. iPhone? I was really excited about the Sphinx shot that I got on my iPhone because I just wanted to have a memory of being there. I wasn't trying to do this big, huge wall art thing, even though I'm at one of the most fantastic places in the world. I was just really enjoying the moment of it. So something else that was really super cool, and I give mad props to our tour guide for this. It was Rose's birthday that day, and I had wished her happy birthday or something like that, so he knew it was her birthday. What he had done on his own, like he didn't ask for extra tip, he didn't ask for anything. I give him respect for that. He had called one of his vendor buddies, and they had actually made in this bottle sand art where it said "Happy Birthday, Rose," and he had gotten that as a gift, and he just straight up gave it to her as a gift. Again, he didn't ask for anything back. He didn't ask for any extra tip. Like what we tipped them at the end of the day, they didn't ask any questions. These guys were professional, and I couldn't recommend them more. I don't know their names because it's just not that type of company. But if they happen to see this video, thanks. So once we finished up around the Sphinx, Rose changed clothes and we got back in our car. We started making our way towards the Cairo Museum. And that museum was huge. It was full of so many artifacts, so much history. And within about 5 minutes of me being in the museum, I hate to say this, but I'm gonna say it. I had so much more respect for all of the artifacts that were there because those artifacts are thousands of years old. And so all the artifacts I see back, around here at home and stuff like that, these are artifacts that are like, okay, 100, maybe 200 years old max. This stuff is thousands of years old. It looks that well kept. And here's the other thing that blew my mind. Many of the artifacts, I'm not talking about the small pieces of jewelry, but like the tombs and things like that, they were just out there on display. People touched them. It wasn't really, advertised to touch them, but they weren't all guarded and protected the way that like pottery and stuff like that is protected here at these like Civil War museums and stuff like that in the States. And this stuff is more than triple their age, 10x their age. I just thought that was funny. So inside the Cairo Museum, we got to see a ton of artifacts, but one of the things that definitely was cool was seeing the King Tut exhibit, because that's where we got to see his golden mask. Like this is that iconic mummy mask that you have seen in your life. It's on like a million little pieces of souvenir. In that area, I wasn't allowed to do any photo or video, but it was just really, really cool. So I'm just gonna put that mask right here so you know what I'm talking about. Actually, the editor's gonna do that. Thank you very much, Kath. So after we finished up with the King Tut exhibit and looking around the museum, we started making our way back towards the hotel just so we can get freshened up because we were going to go out to dinner. And by dinner, I mean a cruise on the Nile dinner theater show, which sounded like it was going to be fantastic. I, to this day, am not going to complain about it. However, on the way home, we both looked at each other and were kind of like, this wasn't the best. I mean, here's the thing, and I'm not going to be really that picky about this stuff like that because the price over there, just because the currency is exchanged, it was all very, very affordable. But the thing with the dinner cruise was the food really wasn't that good. It was kind of like, think Cisco style food, but not really that great. So I'm not bragging home about the food. The show was great. Like they had a dancer, and I don't know what this type of dance is where they spin in circles, and this one dude literally was spinning in circles, like pouring a glass. I don't know why I thought that I could do that and talk because my audio microphone's right here. So before we got back to the dock, we decided to go on the top deck and we started playing with our iPhones and playing with portrait mode to try to do some portraits on the Nile River for day 2 of the Egypt trip. So after dinner, we went back to the hotel. We went our separate ways, and I was wide awake at that point, so I decided to go walk around the streets of Giza by myself without the camera bag and all the other stuff. And again, this is really, really cool because I frankly blended in on the streets of Giza. So I was able to, you know, explore and walk down some neighborhoods that, let's just say, made me a little uncomfortable because there's not enough lighting and there weren't doors on the buildings and stuff like that. But I didn't feel like I was being watched just because, again, I blended in with how everybody else was dressed and how everybody else looked. So it's just fun exploring the nighttime scene in Giza. One of the landmarks that everybody was talking about as a point of reference was the KFC. There was literally a KFC a few blocks down from our hotel. And there wasn't a bunch of American restaurants there, but there was a KFC. So after my walk, I decided to go to the roof of the hotel just because it's a great view. Why waste it? And I decided to put the night mode of my iPhone to the test and see how it looked. And I'm pretty impressed with how the photo came out using night phone with an iPhone handheld. It's pretty cool. But anyway, with that being said, that was day 2 of the Holy Lands trip, and that was in Giza, Egypt. If you like what you're seeing, please let me know in the comments, and also if this is on YouTube or wherever, please subscribe because I'm gonna be telling you more about the rest of this trip because this is just day 2. I was gone for like 9 or I don't even remember how many days this was, but this was just day 2, so there's a whole lot more video coming. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Later.